At times in the past, we have taken a look at various scrolls, and we did a couple of different versions of snub end scrolls. Another thing that is frequently referred to as a snub end scroll is also called a halfpenny or halfpenny scroll. And the halfpenny is actually a coin. I don't know exactly how big it is. Somebody's going to put that in the comment section though. So think of it as something like a quarter on the end of your scroll piece. So it needs to be a nice, neat, round end on your scroll that works into the end of the scroll nicely. And this is a little different technique. Most of the scrolls we've done start with a flat bar and do whatever you're going to do to the end of the scroll and scroll it up. This one will actually start in the opposite dimension, the hard way, to form the round, and then we're going to put a twist in it to get it back where we need it to form our scroll the way we normally do. Might sound a little confusing now. It really isn't. So let's head over to the anvil and we will get started. Just like our other scroll samples, I'm going to start with a piece of 1/4 inch by 3/4 flat bar, and that way all of our scroll samples are done out of the same bar for reference. And we're going to start with half face blows, so the hammer half on the anvil, half off, and because it's a 3/4 wide bar, we're going to step off 3/4 of an inch. If it was a 1-inch bar, we'd step off an inch. And it's okay to do that by eye. Just try to visualize a square section here. And we're going to step that down and thin this about halfway. So we set 3/4 of an inch off, half face blows. And then we're going to want to taper this back some. And how much you taper this is just sort of up to what looks best for your project. For this sample, it isn't that big a deal, but you should be thinking about that for your project. A long, graceful taper might be what looks best. I need to thin this. I want to keep this at 1/4 of an inch. Now, if this is part of a project, take notes on what you started with and how long your taper is so you can repeat it for all of the scrolls in the project. That's kind of what we're going for there. I think I'll take one more heat and just clean that up just a little bit, make it a neater forging. I thinned it just a little bit up towards what's going to be the halfpenny end here, and that'll make the scroll look a little bit more graceful in the long run. But we want to scroll this in the flat just like we did all the others, and the halfpenny is not going to be visible that way. So we're going to give that 1/4 of a twist so you can see it. So that should be possible with just a couple of pairs of tongs here. But if you need to, take it to the vise. Hopefully you can see that. So now that halfpenny is in an orientation we'll be able to see it. We need to neaten that up a little bit though. I'm just going to go back to the edge of the anvil and half face blows. I'm going to taper the bar in so it has a nice neat transition to that. And that's all ready now to form the penny, or the half penny. Somebody from United Kingdom can put in the comments exactly how big a halfpenny is. I don't think it's really relevant. The style is still the same, but I know that's where it comes from. So this is a case where we do square, which we have, then octagon, and then round. Now this corner we can't do anything with because it's already attached to the bar. These two corners we can work opposites here, or here, or here. This corner is hard to get to, but we're going to skip it initially. So we're going to end up with kind of a teardrop shape because we're going to leave that one square to start with. Like I say, we can go octagon here, or here, however you want to do this, and then start rounding these two up. That's going to mushroom over a little bit, so make sure you keep it in the right thickness. There you can see we have kind of a teardrop shape. And there's a reason for that. This doesn't look as good as it could if we drive it down this way so we're back on the anvil. That halfpenny is going to look better and it's going to be a better transition. And now that's what we're going to do with that corner. So we're just going to work that in and kind of stand that back up. Again, keep it flat. And take the time to check your other round, or your other sides, and make sure they're still round. This is something you want to make perfectly round at the anvil. It's possible to go file it, but it's a good chance to practice precise forging and get this just as round as you can right here. Now don't do too much work as it cools off. This neck is a good place for a stress riser, and you might break that end off if it gets cold right there. We're pretty close to round here. Now there is a little tool we can use to kind of help us get this final shape right here and make this a nice transition. So now to just get this just a little bit nicer, we can use a halfpenny scroll starter. We did this in one of the earlier videos. And that helps us start to bend this around in preparation for our final scrolling. We just use this to kind of start the scroll. It gives a place for that halfpenny to tuck under. So it's not a vital tool by any means. It just can be a bit of a helper if you need it. Now you can either finish scrolling this up at the edge of the anvil, or you can go to a scroll form. Turns out this halfpenny does not fit into the scroll starter properly, so we're not going to be able to actually use it. That should actually be in about here. So I'd have to lop the end off where these other scrolls loop around. That's replaced with a halfpenny in this version. So I'm just going to use one of the other scrolls as a comparison and just slowly work this with bending forks until we get the scroll we want. Nothing wrong with doing it this way. It is the way you would do it if you only needed a single scroll. Be able to get the forks in there where you want them so you're not in your own way here. And a little bit tight right here. And just go slow and get this part correct before you start trying to anticipate what this part needs. So just compare, make a middle note of what needs to be bent. And then compare again. It's pretty good. We'll work over here next. It's a little bit more fiddly this way, which is why scroll starters are kind of popular. Yeah, we're almost there. Remember, don't put any kinks in it. A little too tight right there, and a little too loose back here. That's pretty much right on the money. After all that, it's easy for this to start to spiral off one way or the other. So very gently correct that. Then we're done. Well, that's about all I know about halfpenny scrolls. I have rarely made these, and I've never used them in a project. I suppose I should, just to get better at it. It threw me a little bit of a curve when it didn't fit in the scroll jig, but if I had thought about that ahead of time, it would have been obvious. But that's a good chance to practice your skills at rolling a scroll freehand or with bending forks, which is still considerably more difficult and requires more skill and practice than rolling in a scroll jig. So it's a good thing to do. There's somebody out there that is a lot better at this than I am, and if you've got a video, feel free to share it down there in the comment section. I'd love to watch it, because this is clearly something I could be a little bit smoother and a little bit more polished at. But nevertheless, it's an interesting little scroll, and it's another version of what people often call a snub end scroll. These are all snub ends here. And this other one we were using as a pattern is a simple ribbon scroll. There's one other snub end scroll, or thing that is called a snub end scroll. I've always heard it referred to as a bolt end scroll, and that's what we'll do the next time we look at scrolls. And that will finish up all of the versions of snub end scrolls that I know about. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was entertaining and educational both. I hope you can get out to your shop, practice some scrolling, or make something else, but do get out to the shop and make something. While you're out there, stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.